Mr. Mayor, Chairman of Cospoir, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. We are here tonight to pay tribute to those people who, through their continuous efforts, ensure that our young people's sporting interests are well and truly catered for. Unfortunately, in arriving at any year's Sports Service Award recipients, many very worthwhile nominees' claims have to be put in abeyance for another year. And sadly, this is the case once again. It is right, however, that we pay tribute to all those whose abiding aims are the promotion of sport, wherever they find young people willing and capable to participate. The scope and range of interest and effort by all the nominees is incredibly far-reaching. There are those who have given a lifetime of service and in so doing have displayed a depth of vision and commitment that can only be admired and respected. Not only have they inspired others to excel on the world's stage, but they themselves have excelled in a number of sporting disciplines. There are those who saw in a youth policy an investment in the future of their community. Others saw the necessity for the purchase of playing fields as a priority. And as one neutral said to me during the week about an award winner, he says, I wouldn't be surprised if that man, if a lot of his own money went into the buying of that particular pitch. Now, that is the public perception. That is how our award winners are perceived. Others still have spent the year organising, promoting, making fixtures, presiding at and attending innumerable meetings, preparing pitches, checking out players and officials, transporting gear around the country, repairing equipment, converting their own property into training centres for the benefit of others. Others still have been the custodians of their club's finances, collecting fees, paying bills, devising schemes to keep the wolf from the club doors. There are those who have acted in an administrative capacity at local, national and international level. And of course, they have all encouraged the pursuit of excellence in their particular sport. Such is the commitment of our recipients that it seems to me that it is their abiding passion in all of their waking hours. It convinces me of the correctness of the decision taken by the Limerick City Sports Advisory Body 5 years ago to institute this award scheme, to give recognition to those who invariably do not seek it. With the benefit of hindsight and 5 years' experience behind us, it seems to me equally appropriate that there should be a like scheme at national level, sponsored by Cospoir, the National Sports Council. It is appropriate and timely also to remind ourselves, the adults in our society, especially the parents, that we should never take for granted the totality of commitment to sport and community by the likes of such people as we have here with us tonight. They are the cornerstone of our society. Their input, their work cannot be paid for. It can and should be recognized. They are deserving of more support from all of us, even if it means turning up with the car once in a while, even if it is inconvenient. There are limits to their commitment, so please, let us give a little more of ourselves. Our encouragement will lighten the load. Our indifference and criticism may stifle the initiative of those who serve sport and the community year in, year out. While naturally disappointed at not being selected as the venue for the National Sports Centre, it is encouraging nonetheless to have Thomond College designated a National Training and Coaching Centre with, as Ronnie has said, a £250,000 grant. It should therefore open the way to increased participation at local level in the promotion of sport. With such expertise in hand locally, there can be little excuse for not having greater involvement. Now, the main areas of involvement of our committee this year have been one in the promotion of the Sports Service Awards, two, the running of the Limerick City, the Cospoir City 10, 3, our involvement in the Sports Awareness Week, and 4, the production of the 1988 Limerick City Sports Directory. Now, as well as these activities, the committee have been actively involved in promoting Limerick as a venue for the proposed National Centre. We've been involved in sports seminars and in club development awards. That area which involved most work this year was the compilation of information for the 1988 Sports Directory, to be launched here tonight. This work has been done in its entirety by Mary Costello, our secretary. We owe her a debt of gratitude. Whatever about me being the form of the Limerick Sports Advisory Body, Mary is very much the substance, sitting down over there. I just come up and, you know, the front runner, front man. So therefore, I would like very much on a personal note to thank the Sports Advisory Body, Limerick City VEC, and Maurice O'Kelly, the CEO, for the cooperation which has been there at all times during the year. And I would also, in conclusion, very much like to thank the National Sports Council for their help and advice, and in particular I would like to thank Barry O'Houlihan, his Chief Executive Officer, and Ron Delaney, the Chairman of the National Sports Council. It is always a pleasure for us to invite Ron down to be with us for the Sports Service Award, and indeed the Cospoir 10. And, you know, despite the fact that there are many calls in his time, he has never once failed to be with us. It is, as I say, a pleasure and a privilege to have him in our midst. And may I again, on behalf of the Limerick City Sports Advisory Body, reiterate our thanks to you for coming again tonight through storm and all sorts of conditions that most people wouldn't travel through. I thank you, Ron. Now, as I said, one of the events which we were involved in during the year was the Cospoir Limerick City 10. And for the first time, we presented this year to, we didn't normally have a winner's prize as such, but seeing that the occasion that was in it, we felt that a true sportsman should be remembered, and remembered in a concrete form. And we have here with us tonight Mrs. Kathleen O'Brien, widow of Kristi OBrien, who is known and who was known to all of you. A man who participated in athletics and in running for the sake of running, who raised vast amount of monies for charity, and who was ever helpful, and who was, in actual fact, ever popular. We have with us here Ger Hatman, I suppose better known as the Iron Man of athletics in this country. Well, we welcome you, Ger, and it's a pleasure to have you here. Kristi OBrien was the marathon man, and above all else, he was a gentleman. So, Mrs. O'Brien, if you would please come up to formally present to Seamus Cregan the Cospoir City 10 trophy, please.
Would you look at each other for this shot? We're trying another one, just looking at me. At me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. O'Brien, and congratulations, Seamus. Now we come to the main part of the evening, that part where we pay tribute to our Sports Service Awards winners. And the format is, as has been previously, we call on the we call on members of the Limerick City Sports Advisory Body to read a citation, 2 minutes for each citation. We have 10 awards to get through, and I would like to call on Martin Clancy, please, to read the first citation. The citations, by the way, come in alphabetical order, so we will ask you to read your citation, please.
The recipient of this award, which has been for his commitment to rugby, is John Bromell. John has been nominated by his club, Thomond RFC. Now, to those present who may not be aware of the achievements of this famous club, let me say that they are and have been the most progressive junior club in the whole of Munster over the past 30 years. John Bromell has been part and parcel of all these achievements since he started playing football with the club at underage level. He graduated onto their first team and went on to win many honours at that level, including a Munster Junior Cup medal. When he retired from football, John turned his attention to the coaching of underage teams and eventually worked his way up to coach the senior side in the club. As a coach, he was noted to be a great motivator and never asked his players to do anything he was not prepared to do himself. During training in the dark and murky nights in Shelburne Park, John would scrummage, ruck and maul with his players. His results were shown with the many trophies his club won throughout Ireland. Metaphorically and literally speaking, one can say that John Bromell is down to earth. As a person, he's a shy and humble individual. He's also down to earth where his club is concerned. Thomond purchased their own ground 14 years ago. All his spare time was spent in developing the field, and due to the great work of John and others, his club are proud possessors of pitches and clubhouse. If one were to visit Woodview, where Thomond grounds are situated, you are bound to find John either lining the pitch, spiking the field, painting railings, or coaching underage sides. John is one of those people which we all need in our clubs. That is, those behind the scenes, doing their jobs and doing them well. John puts in 9 months of tremendous hard work for his club, but to charge his batteries to perform those duties so diligently each year, he retires for the summer months to that beautiful place, Plassey, where he tests his skill against the various species of fish in those waters. His only other pastime is to keep company frequently, and very often actually, with a black lady with a white top. And if he ever gives up this lady, those who have shares in a certain company situated in Dublin, beware, take them out immediately. John Bromell, well done, and a most worthy recipient of this award.
Try another one then, just looking at each other.
Yeah. The John Bromell. The next recipient for GAA is Pat Condon, and Noel Drumgoole will read the citation.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor and friends, I've been asked to speak about Pat Condon from the Newcastle West Club. In the early 70s, the GAA decided, took a major policy decision in relation to their future. Up to that time, the GAA provided playing facilities for their players, but never was really involved in the provision of facilities for the community. However, as I say, that all changed in the 70s. And I'm delighted to say that one of the first clubs who took up that challenge was Newcastle West. And the person who has been given the credit for providing not alone playing facilities for the games, but also a tremendous community development, that credit goes to Pat Condon. He was treasurer and assistant treasurer, and through his efforts, his motivation, through his expertise, they raised substantial finance, and at this stage they have now cleared most of that, and they are now with the finance of manageable proportions. As I say, it was strictly and through the efforts of Pat Condon. It's very easy and it's very simple to plan facilities and to build facilities. The real problem is when it comes to trying to pay for that. However, Pat did not just solely confine himself to the administration side. He also realised that if Newcastle West were to do anything on the field of play, if their seniors were to win competitions, then they had to look after the youth. And it was then that Pat took on the job of taking the youth under his wing, bringing them to the field, coaching them and training them. And through those efforts, they won many a competition. They won 4 county minor football titles, 1 county minor hurling, 6 under-21 football, and 1 under-21 hurling. It was this year, 1987, that Pat was able to stand back and say, well, it was all worthwhile. Because for the first time, Newcastle West won the County Senior Football Championship, and the bulk of the players that were on that team playing senior football were the lads that Pat had coached in Newcastle West and brought through the various grades to that stage. Not alone did they win that, but they went forward to the Munster final of the GAA Interclub competition. As I say, Pat has made a significant contribution to the promotion of the games and the provision of these community facilities in Newcastle West. His award this evening is indeed well merited. Thank you.
Pat Condon, well done. And Noel Drumgoole, no mean fundraiser himself, as we all know. Now, I'd like to call on Captain Michael Egan to read a citation for Tommy Dillon. Captain Egan.
Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasant task this evening to introduce you to Tommy Dillon. I have been warned to be brief, so in an effort to do justice to this man whose achievements, after I've enumerated just some of them, will give you an idea of just what he has done. Tommy Dillon is receiving recognition tonight for his efforts in weightlifting, both as a competitor and also as an administrator. As a competitor, Tommy was 7 times an All-Ireland champion, holding titles for weightlifting and bodybuilding. He represented Ireland nationally and at European level on 8 separate occasions. He broke countless Irish records. In 1981, he became Ireland's first international referee, and with one other, he still holds that distinction. He is national PRO for the Powerlifting Association of Ireland. This just shows some of the activities to which he has already arisen. Tonight in particular, and one of the main reasons why he's here tonight, is the work he has done for our community and the local community in particular. Tommy set up in 1985 the South Hill Weight Training Club. And those of you from Limerick will know that the South Hill is a fairly big housing estate here in the city. In so doing, and in failing to secure a suitable hall, Tommy, to his credit, offered the use of his own garden, right, which I am told from just very general investigations that I made into him, that he actually won prizes for gardening, which is no, so he donated his garden as grounds to build a weight training club. And he, with a number of other friends, set about and built the weight training club in his garden. This is something which not everybody would be willing to do, and I'm sure his wife must be a most patient woman, so we pay tribute to her too. The club is open every night of the week, Monday to Saturday. Again, this is no mean feat to throw basically what is your own home open for the use of others. The club, though it is only set up a short period, is reckoned to be, and is fast becoming, one of the best clubs in Munster. They recently won the Limerick championship on their first attempt. Again, no mean achievement. Most of Tommy's work has been in fundraising, in coaching, and in constant improvement of the club itself. Most of the equipment he had to borrow in order to set it up in the first place. Also, as part of the investigation, I was informed by a number of very important people in the area, right, that some of the work he has done has been, he has taken youngsters under his wing who were in trouble, and has, through his efforts, given them an interest, given them a discipline, and as such has put them on the straight and narrow. This to society is no mean achievement. He has generated great spirit within his club, right, which if anybody visits it, I haven't been drinking, sorry. Anybody visits it, they would notice straight away. Now, this is only scratching the surface of what this man has done. So therefore, in recognition of his endeavours, and even though it might appear that some of these things go unnoticed, I would like to invite Tommy to receive a much merited Sports Service Award for 1987.
Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, the next recipient is Jack Long for his work for Archery. It is my pleasure to read a citation concerning Jack's activities. He was a founder member of the Limerick Archer Club, and though founded as late as 1981, they've had that rare distinction of already having a member represent Ireland in the Olympic Games. This, as you know, is Mary Vaughan, who represented Ireland in archery in the Los Angeles Games. He is a former chairman and vice chairman of the Limerick Archers, and is currently the Irish Amateur Archery Association president. I was trying to locate him over the weekend, and indeed spent a good deal of time yesterday, and eventually I had to leave a message when I got somebody, and I discovered when I got back on the phone to Jack, he had spent his day above in Portlaoise, ironing out problems at national level. He has been team manager to the Federation in Bangor and in Falkirk, and is currently on the international panel of team managers. In Limerick last year, he was tournament organiser of the Six Nation tournament, which involved bringing people from other countries to Ireland and specifically to Limerick. The tournament was staged out in the Piercy ground, and one could only wonder at amazement at the amount of work that went into the preparation. Jack, as I said, was the tournament organizer, and one could only suggest his name as a member of this new tourist body which is active in trying to bring tourists into the country. During that tournament, I certainly perceived people from Holland, from Northern Ireland and from Scotland out there shooting. You know, it was there, I heard the mention of the phrase butts. I thought they were talking about cigarettes, but they were looking for their butts around the place, but I soon discovered that the butt was the target, and if you saw the amount of materials that go into the making of these targets, you know, you really would be amazed. And my information is, and it's fairly correct, that Jack not only manages, he coaches, but he makes these butts, and he does so in his own time. He was involved, I know for a fact, in 6 months preparation for the tournament last year, and it gives me great pleasure to call on Jack Long of the Limerick Archers Club and current president of the Irish Amateur Archers Association to receive his Sports Service Award for 1987. Now, it gives me pleasure to call on Michael Mulcahy to read the citation for the next recipient, Joan Mulcahy. Michael Mulcahy, please.
Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I want to explain that I'm standing in for Miriam Berry, the swimming representative on the Sports Council. And before I go any further, I'd like, on behalf of swimming in Limerick, to thank publicly the VEC for their sports grants allocated to us each year. I am indeed delighted to be asked to do this job tonight, particularly as I know this recipient is most worthy of the award. Swimming in Limerick, I may say, is a very old sport, but at top competitive level is entirely new to Limerick. And I would say that our success in the sport can only be measured from the efforts put in by the people running the clubs. Now, in Limerick Swimming Club, we are very lucky to have one of these people that gives 100%. I think my easiest way out of this situation is, if I may, give what I would call a job description of her functions. She is the honorary treasurer, and that means money. And I think everybody here will appreciate the problem collecting money, particularly from a group of over 50 swimmers ranging in age from 10 to possibly 22, male and female. This is a 10 months of the year job, night and day, ranging from 6 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night, and as I say, is a thankless job. Pool time has to be booked, prices negotiated, not with one authority but with 4 different pool managers, payments made and the usual records kept. Travel arrangements and accommodation has to be booked at the keenest prices for all these swimmers, from Bangor to Cork, Waterford to Castlebar. Again, this falls on our honorary treasurer. Fundraising, I say, is no strange word to everybody here, and our recipient is a first-class fundraiser, particularly when chasing sponsorship. I think you can throw in the usual job description, final line, any other duty as deemed necessary by the committee, and that could entail attending meetings in Cork or Cahir or Waterford or wherever several times a month. I nearly forgot to mention as a sideline that this lady happens to be married, and we're very lucky that she has a very understanding husband, and to boot she has 6 young school-going children to cater and feed. I think I have given you a very small idea what our award winner is, ladies and gentlemen, Joan Mulcahy.
Joan Mulcahy, very worthy winner. Now, I'd like to call on Captain Michael Egan again to read the citation for our next award winner, Alphonsus OBrien. Captain Egan.
Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, yet again I have the pleasant task of introducing to Alphonsus OBrien, a well-known man locally. I tried to find out just how long he was involved in boxing, which is the sport for which he is nominated tonight, and nobody was able to tell me. Nobody could even think back that far. I was told that I would be fairly safe in guessing it was well over 30 years. And in that period of time, Phonsie, as he is affectionately known, right, and is a friend of ours on the committee because of his work involved there, and also by virtue of the number of nominations he got from the number of totally unconnected areas and groups, shows just how popular a man he is. He is 20 years treasurer of the county board, which is a fair record, you will agree, still holding the post, I might say. He has held posts at all levels, at county board, Munster Council, and as the Munster representative on the Central Council of the Irish Amateur Boxing Association. He's a qualified judge. He's officiated at all grades in the Irish Championships. He has judged internationally for Ireland against America, Sweden, Poland, Wales, England, Scotland and Hungary. Right. In the local area, and he has been involved mainly with two clubs, first St. John's and secondly St. Munchin's. While he was involved with St. John's Boxing Club, the 1960s and early 70s mainly, that club went through one of its glory periods. During that period they hosted competitions from Welsh international team, in which a local Limerick team representing Ireland competed, the US Golden Gloves team of that particular year in 1971, and an English team comprising Devon and Cornwall clubs. Also a German team from the Mid-Rhine area were invited to the Limerick area, all this organised principally by Phonsie. The following year to that, the club actually travelled to Germany. His son, whom I met tonight, I went to school with him, I didn't even recognise him for so many years. Jerry was, during this period, was also an Irish juvenile champion boxer in his weight division. In the mid-1970s, he moved to St. Munchin's Club. The work he achieved there is one of the main reasons he's here tonight, and one of the main reasons he's held in such esteem by the members of that club. They renovated, more or less rebuilt the club premises for no small amount of money to a stage where it's now considered one of the finest in the country. He has been secretary-treasurer of that club for a number of years. He has involved himself in the fundraising and has been the principal man in raising the funds. He has put many sportsmen through his hands in the club. Pat O'Halloran, to mention, one of the present Irish internationals. He's an international light flyweight champion, and he's also on the international team. Now, Phonsie's record speaks for itself. For those who know him, you know him to be a most unassuming man, very pleasant and a gentleman. Does not sing his own praises. He's a man who acts rather than talks about acting, as opposed to the rest of us, unfortunately. I am reliably told that his wife Nellie has virtually given up and considers herself a boxing widow, so she must come in for some trip tonight. For all the hours he has spent going to meetings, travelling the length and breadth of the country, I'm sure, going to the National Stadium, up to Dublin and around the country, all those hours which anybody who has ever been involved was to sometimes wonder why they do it. For all those hours, for the work that others never appear to notice that you put in, just in a small way, for 30 years of it, or in excess of 30 years of it, is indeed an example to everybody. He is a most meritorious nominee for the Cospoir Sports Services Award. I recommend Phonsie OBrien.
Well done, Phonsie. It's now my pleasure to call on Noel Drungool to pay tribute and read a citation on Tom O'Brien.
Mr. Chairman, Mayor, I'm back again, so you'll have to put up with me for another few minutes. However, I'm here to talk about a very worthy winner of tonight's award, and that is Tom O'Brien. Tom is, or has been, chairman of the City Board in Oak here in Limerick City for the past 8 years. Any of us involved in the GAA accept that the most difficult task, the most onerous job in the GAA in Limerick is to be chairman of Board in Oak. There are over 300 fixtures to be catered for each year. Now, Tom, through his efforts, produced a master's fixture plan. He was the first to bring that in. And just remember what it means to organise and arrange 300 games, to try and find the venues, to try and find the referees, and to try to find the other officials to do that work. There are plenty of glamorous positions for all of us within sport, where we're up front and our photographs are in papers and we're talked about, but when it comes to juvenile affairs, there's no real glamour. It's just real hard work, real hard slog. And it's because of what Tom O'Brien has done, as I say, over the past 8 years, that he is going to receive this award today. Now, as I said, he produced that master fixtures plan. And not alone did Tom get involved in that side of the work, but more often than not, he tugged out and he refereed himself. As chairman of the board, he refereed, I would say, as many matches as any other referee in those grades over the years. Now, besides looking after the games, Tom also recognised that you must look after the social side for the young people. Games was not just enough, their social outlets had to be looked after. Tom arranged each year a sports awards for juveniles, and this was one of the highlights each year for all of the young people who play GAA games here in the city of Limerick. He also was involved, and very involved, in Scoring an Oak. That is a competition, an inter-club competition that's run on the cultural aspects of the GAA. Tom was very much involved in that, and once again, if you think about it, to get all of the clubs, again to find the venues for these and to do the organising, it is a huge job. Tom tackled that and tackled it real well every year. One of the highlights of his term as chairman was the celebration of 25 years of Board in Oak. That was a tremendous occasion when not alone were the young people brought, but all of the officials and all of the people who counted within the GAA throughout the country and throughout Limerick particularly were brought along to that function. Tom has earned the admiration of all of us within the GAA for his efficient handling of the Board in Oak affairs, and indeed in the courteous manner in which he always carried out his duties. He epitomises what tonight is all about and what these sports awards are all about. It can be truly said that Tom is one of those unsung heroes of sport. I am delighted to recommend that he receives this award tonight. Thank you.
Well done, Tom. It is now my pleasant duty to call on Eddie McCarthy to pay due tribute and to read the citation for our next recipient, Dick Penny.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chairman, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Dick Penny of Pike Rovers. Pike Rovers are celebrating their Golden Jubilee this year, 50 years. And Dick Penny was a founder member of Pike Rovers. So Dick is also celebrating his Golden Jubilee this year. During that 50 years, Dick has worked absolutely tremendously hard for his club. He has served as treasurer of the club for over 20 years. He has served as the LDMC representative of the club. He has represented the LDMC at provincial and national level. Many youngsters have gone through Dick's hands, and he has been responsible for many players to have got international honours and also interprovincial honours. Dick Penny has got involved at the club at grassroots level, and he was responsible for the provision of a fantastic playing facility at the moment, and also a pavilion which is absolutely second to none. There isn't a League of Ireland club in Ireland that have a pavilion like Pike Rovers, and that is due to Dick Penny. And that is only phase one of Dick's fantastic master plan for the club. Phase one of the development is 8,000 square feet and cost approximately £250,000. Phase two, which will begin next August, will consist of the development and the levelling of the 2 junior pitches and the schoolboy pitches. And when that is being complete, with the help of some financial assistance, which I'm sure Dick will get, and maybe even tonight might even get a promise of some, they will then take on phase 3. And once that's achieved, Dick said to me tonight, and he said when it was achieved, not if it was achieved, but when, he will then sit back and be able to say that Pike Rovers have the best facilities in this city and maybe even in the country. The phase 3 will also contain facilities for indoor games and for indoor coaching. Dick Penny was also a city councillor in Limerick and served on the sports committee, the corporation sports committee. And during that time, he didn't only promote soccer, but all other sports here in the city as well. So I think you will agree that Dick Penny more than deserves this award that has been given to him tonight. Thank you.
Well done, Dick. Now we come to our last 2 awards, our special categories, our lifetime of service category. And it gives me great pleasure to call on Paddy O'Connell to read the citation on our lifetime of sports category recipient, John O'Donnell.
It is not easy to be brief when I give a summary of John O'Donnell's lifetime career. His first taste of success was in 1936. Sorry, it wasn't. It was in 1939 when he won a minor hurling championship medal for the year 1936 with Croom. For some reason, the 1936 hurling championship was played in 1939. Maybe we'll find out why later. In 1940, he went to Dublin, and he spent 26 years there. And also in Dublin, he became an all-rounder in 4 sports, the Oldham Goal, in spite of the ban. He played rugby with Clontarf, modestly he said with Clontarf seconds, and also with Guinnesses. He played senior hockey with St James's Gate and continued playing until 1964. He played hurling with Dublin, with his adopted Dublin, and he won a Dublin hurling championship medal. He also played for Leinster in the Railway Cup in 1943 and 44, and actually something happened here tonight. Seamie Cregan said that if Leinster had won the semi-final in 44, John O'Donnell would be playing against Seamie's father in the 44 final. And we all, looking down again at Noel and seeing him up twice, we all appreciate all he has doing for Limerick GAA, but sure, maybe he's only repaying all that John did for Dublin for hurling in the 40s. In the late 40s, he dominated the Irish sprinting. He won 6 national championships. He set a new 220 yards record, and that stood for 16 years. In 1948, he was selected for the Olympic Games, but as the NACA were not recognised by the Olympic Council, he couldn't compete. It was in 1966 he returned to Limerick, and it's here he is getting this award tonight, because as a true gentleman of sport, he continued to give something back to the sport which he loved, and he took up coaching, especially in Limerick Athletic Club. And one of his proteges, Brendan O'Regan, set a new Irish record for the 100 metres at a time of 10.5. But John devoted as much time to the mediocre athletes as he did to the talented lads, and this has always been appreciated. He even found time to go out to Bournemouth to those very lovely people out there, and he coached the special athletes for the Special Olympics. And I hope you won't mind me saying so. He would be still doing this, except he had a couple of heart attacks, and it slowed him down a little bit. He was a founder member of the Community Games, and he was chairman for 3 years, and also president. And many prominent athletes today thank him for all the encouragement he gave them during their Community Games years. As a matter of fact, Frank O'Mara thinks so highly of him, and he believes he owes him his success in the sport for encouraging him to stay on. That recently, when Frank was awarded the Texaco Sports Star Award, John O'Donnell was his special guest at that award. In Limerick Athletic Club, he has been president, and now he's life vice president. He's been team manager of the track and field team. He still is, and has been for over 15 years. And in that time, Limerick Athletic Club have won 3 National League titles and have only been out of the top 3 clubs in the country on 3 occasions. He also led the club into the European National Clubs Championships. Much of the success of the club is due to John's shrewd and tactical picking of teams. His knowledge of the sport is so much that never is a decision of his questioned by the club. Oh, yeah, I forgot something. He also played a bit of golf. But I'm glad to say I can beat him, which doesn't say very much for his prowess. But actually, when John and I find time to go for a game, you know, when we go up to the clubhouse, we don't pick up scorecards. We get our calculators and a jotter and we go off for it. Anyway. John O'Donnell, I am delighted, is getting this award tonight for a lifetime service to sport, because truly there is a man who has given a lifetime service to sport.
Well done, John. Congratulations. Now, the last recipient, but by no means least, for a lifetime of service to schools and school sport, it is my pleasure to call on Martin Clancy to pay tribute to Pat Powell.
Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, the recipient of this award is one who has been involved in sport for near on 60 years. The example he has set to all others, irrespective of which code we follow, is difficult to supersede. He has been nominated by the North Munster branch of the IRFU for this award, and it is for services to schools. But to bypass his other services to the Code of Rugby prior to entering the school scene would be remiss of me. He started his playing career with Bohemians RFC in the late 1920s and played senior football and distinguished himself at that level. When his playing days were over, he turned his talents to the benefit of his own club and acted as president for his club for 2 seasons. He was also delegate to the Munster branch and served as a senior selector of the Munster teams. To have held these 3 positions is no mean achievement, and the amount of people who have held those are few and far between. In recognition of his services, his own club have made him an honorary life member. In 1970, with the retirement of the late John West, Pat Powell was invited to take up the position of secretary of as honorary secretary of the Munster branch of the schools committee. Pat agreed to do so for 1 year. This in itself was also unique, for Pat was not involved with any school, but was completely neutral. When Pat took on the position, there were around 8 or 9 schools, I think, in the whole of Munster playing football. But when Pat retired there last year, 1987, that number had increased to 16. And these new schools included in this region St. Clements, Archery and St. Enda's. With the introduction of schools international football, Pat Powell was elected to represent Munster as an international selector and served 2 years, 1976 and 1977, in that position. He also served 2 years, 85 to 87, on the Irish Schools Standing Committee. All these positions were held in conjunction with his secretaryship, and one must remember that any time away from his employment in the SB were at his own expense or days from his annual holidays. I first got to know Pat personally when I became a delegate to the North Munster branch, and we'd attend meetings each Monday night out in Bohemians Pavilion or in the Cruises or the Royal George. Pat was usually first to arrive around 7 o'clock. Would take up his usual position up at the top. And to me, he was a fatherly figure, because as we all know, down to the years at branch level, officers change, delegates change, but to me, Pat Powell seemed to go on forever. His ear was always tuned to all debates, and he made sure that meetings were run according to standing orders. When matters of school business was being discussed, Pat always made sure that the school's rights were completely upheld. Pat Powell's character can best be described by his own personal frame, tall and straight. And the only vices that I know he has are the constant cigarette in his mouth. He's still trying to beat the books after all these years, and I think his love for the small drop. I, as a parent, Pat, thank you personally on behalf of all parents for the hours days, years you have given for the benefit and welfare of our children. Long life and happiness in your retirement.
Congratulations, Pat. Now, you've listened to the stories and the lives of very worthy winners, and the formal part of the evening is now almost at an end. And before there's a group photograph taken there of all the winners, I would like to say this, that if you feel like staying on, you're more than welcome. We would hope to rouse out maybe one or two to sing a song for us, if you feel like it, and if you don't, well, fair enough too, okay? But I have no doubt that among all those talents that you have, Sports Service Award winners, that I'm sure each and every one of you would be good for a song or two in here, okay? So don't go away, don't rush away. Now, we've had the apologies from Commissioner Raymond Doherty, who very late in the day had to pull out. I believe there are two ministers going to Belfast tomorrow, and as the Minister for Justice is one of them, the Commissioner of the Garda Síochána couldn't very well, I think, come down here tonight. But it's the first time he has missed the occasion, and the fact that he left his apologies so late indicate that he was anxious to come and unfortunately couldn't come. We also have had apologies from Jan Sullivan, and we have been informed by the Minister's office that he wasn't able to come tonight. I believe he has clinics or something in the west of Ireland. However, we have been honoured by the presence of the Chairman of the National Sports Council and indeed the Chief Executive Officer. And I would call on the Chairman of the National Sports Council now to perform one very small function, one small investiture on the Chief Executive Officer of the National Sports Council, who has over the year been very patient with us. I suppose I should say very patient with me in particular. I hope he doesn't say anything, but we leave it at that. Ronnie, please.
Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, when I was speaking to you earlier, I didn't realise I would be up here for such a pleasant task, because this is the Cospoir Circle, the Limerick City Sports Advisory Committee, Cospoir Circle, and it's a very elegant, I hope everyone can almost see it, it's a very elegant pin. It's handmade and it's in sterling silver. And the committee, the chairman, have awarded 4 of such these awards, and I know I, as one of the recipients, Noel Drumgoole, who is the chairman of the Finance Committee of the Sports Council, Mary, who was extolled earlier this evening, and indeed myself, we all greatly appreciate this very beautiful award, but mostly the sentiment attached to it, which is that it is recognition of contribution to sport for all in Limerick. And I would like to say how delighted I am to do the investiture, if that's the fancy word that Jeremiah used, because no one deserves it more than Barry Hoolan. Barry is, he will tell you he likes to stay in the background, but I can tell you he's probably better known than anyone in sports circles in Ireland. He's most efficient as Chief Executive of the Sports Council. He's most influential in the direction sport has taken over the last 8 years in my association with him. He's a most loyal friend to me and I couldn't think of words to praise him high enough. And I think that in being honoured here this evening with the Cospoir Circle Award, I think it's great recognition of the continuous interest he's taken in the work that the Limerick City Sports Advisory Committee have done over the years. Barry, it's my great pleasure to ask you to come forward so that I can invest here.
Look at me this one, please. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That's it, except to say there wants to have been one other presentation tonight, but unfortunately the recipient is in America at the moment. It isn't very often we get a chance to pay due tribute to world champions, but when they return, it will be done. Thank you very much. Thank you once again. Could we have the recipients, please, of the awards up here so that we can get a group shot, please?
Sorry, would you just hide the label, please? The label, just bring it around to the left. Jacket straws, please. If we can. I know you're in a good mood.
You can't take it like that. Take a deep breath out, John, and it's what you can try.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
Would you just the winners? No, just the we get the winners.
Right, Tim. Thanks, John. Please.